The apartment building looked like it had been built before color. Gray brick, gray steps, gray trim. The kind of place no one noticed even if they walked by it every day. Tucked between two abandoned businesses on a back street just off campus, it didn't even have a real name. Just a number, 2318. Renee stood outside, holding a single suitcase and a folded paper with a scribbled address. She checked her phone. No signal. Figures, she muttered. The rent was absurdly cheap, suspiciously cheap, really, but after weeks of searching and watching her savings disappear, she didn't care. She needed a place. And this one had space, privacy, and no roommates. The landlady answered the door after only one knock. Her eyes were small and cloudy, her voice soft like she'd been whispering secrets for too long. "You're early," she said, not smiling. Sorry?" "No. That's good. Come in." The building smelled like dust and old soap. The hallway was narrow and long, lined with crooked picture frames of strangers, black and white portraits that stared as she passed. The wallpaper was faded yellow with vertical cracks running through it like veins. "You'll be in the last room on the left," the landlady said, walking slowly ahead. They passed doors with numbers, 1A, 2B, 2C, 3A, but when they reached the end of the hall, the door had no number. Just a smooth brass plaque screwed into the center. It read, "Do not enter after midnight." Renee tilted her head. "Is that supposed to be funny?" The landlady didn't answer. She unlocked the door with a key that looked like it belonged to an attic, and handed it to Renee. "Never remove the plaque," she said. "Don't invite anyone in after dark. And most importantly," she leaned close, "never open the door if you hear knocking after midnight." Renee forced a chuckle. "Right, ghost rules. Got it." But the landlady didn't laugh. She turned and left without another word. That night, Renee unpacked slowly, still unsettled by the landlady's warning. The room itself wasn't bad. High ceilings. A small window. An old iron bed. Everything had that. Left alone for decades. Vibe, but it was clean enough. She plugged in her lamp, set her books on the desk, and laid out her blankets. Outside, the hallway creaked and groaned like the building was stretching in its sleep. She checked the time. 11:42 p.m. Tired but curious, she walked over to the door. The brass plaque caught the light strangely, almost glowing in the dark. "Do not enter after midnight." Renee rolled her eyes. Creepy old building trying to act mysterious. She locked the deadbolt and climbed into bed. She woke to a soft sound. Knock, knock, knock. Her eyes snapped open. She checked her phone, 12:04 a.m. The knock came again. Slower. Knock, knock. It wasn't frantic. It wasn't aggressive. But it was there. Coming from the hallway. Renee sat up slowly. She didn't say anything. She didn't move. She just listened. After a few seconds, the knock came again, but this time, it wasn't on the door. It was on the wall. The far wall. The one that shouldn't connect to anything but open air. Knock. Then silence. She waited. Nothing. Her heart pounded. The air felt thick. She finally laid back down, pulling the blanket over her head like a kid. Eventually, sleep dragged her under. The next morning, she told herself it had been a dream. Sleep paralysis. A weird first-night brain glitch. New place, old fears. She got coffee from the corner store and didn't return until sunset. That evening, she pushed a chair in front of the door, not because she believed in ghosts, but because belief and precaution sometimes overlap. She fell asleep around 12:02 a.m. Knock. This time, she was already awake. Sitting up. Holding her breath. The knock came from the door again. Then the wall. Then the floorboards. Then something scraped. A slow dragging sound. Like fingernails across wood. She gripped her blanket and whispered to herself. "Don't open it." Then came the whisper. Right at her door. "Renee." It was her voice. Exactly. Like a recording of herself. Please let me in. It's cold. I forgot my key. She shook her head. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. She didn't move. The whisper stopped. The knob turned. Then, silence. Renee sat frozen in the dark, eyes locked on the door handle. It had moved. She'd seen it twitch. But the deadbolt held. The chair was still braced against it. She stayed that way for over an hour, back against the wall, blanket clenched tight in her fists. Eventually, the room warmed slightly. The air felt lighter. The silence returned to its normal kind. The hallway stopped breathing. By 1:30 a.m., she forced herself to lie back down. She didn't sleep. Not really. The next day, she went to the building office, a small, musty room behind the stairs that smelled like dried glue and mothballs. The landlady sat at her desk, typing on a computer that looked older than Renee. Renee cleared her throat. Hey. So, weird question. Has anyone else heard knocking? At night? The landlady didn't look up. Room 3F had tapping. Room 1B had whispering. You have knocking. That's normal? No, she said. But it's common. Renee blinked. What does that even mean? Now the landlady looked at her, eyes dull and flat. It means keep your doors shut. That night she taped the keyhole, duct taped the latch, pushed a dresser in front of the door. And still, at 12:04 a.m., it came. Knock, knock, knock. But this time it didn't stop. Knocks at the window. Knocks at the closet. Even the floor beneath her bed. Then, her voice again. But distorted now. As if someone was trying to remember how she sounded. Let me in. Renee. She screamed into her pillow. It didn't stop. Until 3 a.m. At exactly 3 o'clock, it all went dead quiet. By day 5, Renee hadn't slept more than an hour straight. She looked pale. Thin. Her hands trembled. She stopped going to class. Stopped answering texts. She stayed in her room, curtains drawn, door locked. But that night, there was no knock. Just silence. All night. At first, she was relieved. Then confused. Then uneasy. Because at 3:13 a.m., the closet door slowly creaked open. And inside was a mirror. She didn't own a mirror. It hadn't been there before. And in the mirror she saw herself, standing. But she wasn't standing. She was sitting on the bed. Yet her reflection smiled. Renee stared at the mirror. Her reflection just stood there, still, smiling. Its head tilted slightly, like it was trying to study her. Or like it was waiting. She whispered, "This isn't real." The mirror Renee mouthed the same words, but no sound came out. Then it lifted one hand, slowly, and pointed toward the door. A soft knock followed. Gentle. Like fingertips. Knock, knock, knock. Renee jumped to her feet. No. She looked at the mirror. Her reflection didn't move. Still smiling. Still pointing. The knock came again. But this time, it was inside the room. She backed into the corner. Every light in the apartment went out. All at once. Only the mirror glowed now. Faint, cold light spilling out across the floor like frost. Then, a whisper from inside the mirror. "You're almost ready." Renee grabbed the desk lamp and smashed it against the mirror. Glass shattered. Darkness swallowed the room like a wave. She woke up on the floor just after dawn. Cuts on her hands. Blood on her blanket. But the mirror was gone. Like it had never been there. That afternoon, she packed everything she owned in under an hour. She ran. No goodbye to the landlady. No forwarding address. No classes. Just a bus ticket. She moved across the state. Found a new place. Clean. Bright. Normal. She started sleeping again. She started laughing again. Until a package arrived. No return address. Inside. A brass plaque. Same as the one from her door. It read, "Do not enter after midnight." And at the bottom, carved freshly into the metal, "Thanks for keeping the doors shut. Someone else opened theirs. Renee." Renee didn't sleep much anymore. Not because she couldn't, but because part of her didn't want to. Even across the state, even in a bright white apartment with living neighbors and working lights, she still felt the presence. Not always loud, not always clear, but there. In mirrors that held her reflection just a little too long. In dark windows where her silhouette sometimes moved, when she didn't. In dreams where someone whispered back her own thoughts, but slightly out of order. She stopped using mirrors completely. Started covering them. Avoided her own reflection. But it still found ways to look back. One night, as she was brushing her teeth with the bathroom light off, the faucet began to rattle. Then the medicine cabinet popped open. She hadn't touched it. Inside, something had been scratched into the mirror's inner glass, barely visible. She turned on her phone flashlight and leaned in. It said, "You broke it. Now you're the door." Her blood ran cold. Behind her, in the mirror's reflection, was a second door in her bathroom wall. One that didn't exist in real life. Until she turned around. And saw it. Old. Wood. No handle. Just the faintest shimmer of brass where a plaque had been. Renee stepped back, her hand trembling around the phone light. There was no way that door had been there before. She would have seen it. Touched it. It was only a few feet from the sink. She brushed her teeth there every night. But now, it stood there. Sealed. Ancient looking. And silent. Until. Knock, knock, knock. She dropped her phone. The flashlight beam spun wildly, casting jagged shadows. The knock came again, louder now, with more weight, like whoever was behind it had grown impatient. Knock. Knock. Then a voice whispered through the door, but from inside her own head. "You broke the mirror, Renee. You let it out. Now it needs a way back in." She backed into the hallway, heart pounding. The door didn't open. It didn't need to. Because her living room light was already on. And she hadn't turned it on. She crept forward, holding her breath. Sitting calmly in the armchair by the window was herself. Hair damp. Eyes hollow. Dressed in the same clothes she'd worn the night she left the building. Mirror Renee. She turned and smiled. The same slow, wrong smile from the glass. "I can't go back alone," she whispered. Then she stood up. Renee ran. Out of the apartment. Down the stairs. Into the street. She didn't stop until her lungs burned. She slept that night in a 24-hour laundromat, wrapped in a coat, surrounded by buzzing machines. And when she awoke, the same brass plaque was hanging on the laundromat bathroom door. "Do not enter after midnight." Below it, "No more running. You're not the tenant now. You're the building." Renee stared at the plaque, throat dry, heart loud in her ears. She backed away from the door. This was a public place. Bright fluorescent lights. Cameras. People. Washing machines humming like nothing was wrong. And yet the plaque was there. "Do not enter after midnight." Her phone buzzed. She looked down. One new voicemail. From unknown. Timestamp, 12:04 a.m. Her fingers hovered over the play button. She didn't want to listen. Every part of her body told her not to. But she did. "Hi, Renee. This is you. You're already inside. Don't fight it. Once you're part of the building, you never really leave. You just wait for someone else to open the door." Asterisk. She dropped the phone. The lights in the laundromat flickered. All the machines stopped at once. Total silence. Then, from the bathroom, a soft click. The door opened slowly, just a few inches. And from within, a long, pale hand reached out. Searching. Feeling. Waiting. Renee turned and ran. This time, she didn't stop at the edge of the block. Or the next. Or even at sunrise. She left the city. took buses, hitched rides, slept in libraries and fast food booths. She didn't tell anyone her name, didn't use credit cards. She lived like a ghost. And yet, everywhere she went, eventually, a door would appear. Sometimes in the back of a cafe, sometimes at the end of a hallway that used to be solid wall. Always with a plaque. Always at 12:04 a.m. After a year of running, she stopped. Not because she was tired, but because she found it again. The building. 2318. Same bricks. Same crooked windows. Same brass handle. But this time, it was different. This time, the door was open. Inside, the hall was dark. Silent. And at the end, the last room on the left waited for her, door slightly ajar, a dim blue light flickering from within. She stepped inside. And smiled. "Okay," she whispered. "It's my turn to knock." The building had been empty for years. At least, that's what the college property manager told Liam when he handed him the keys. "Place has history," the man said, looking everywhere but Liam's eyes. "You'll be on the top floor. End of the hall. Last room on the left." Liam blinked. "That sounds creepy." The manager forced a laugh. "It's cheap." That was true. And Liam was broke. So he moved in. The hallway was long and dim, with faded wallpaper that smelled faintly of mildew and cigarette ash. The overhead light flickered once as he passed each door. Room 1A. Room 2B. Room 3C. And then, no number. Just the door. Slightly darker wood. With a faint outline on the center, like something had been screwed into it once, then ripped away. He reached for the knob. Then paused. Someone had carved a message into the wood just above it. "If you hear knocking after midnight, don't answer." Liam snorted. "Cute." He turned the knob and stepped inside. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. No refrigerator hum. No creaking pipes. Even the floor under Liam's shoes made almost no sound. It was like the place had been vacuum sealed, as if noise wasn't allowed here. Still, it looked normal enough: single bed, old desk, tiny kitchen, window facing an alley full of pigeons. And a closet that, for some reason, had no handle. Liam tossed his duffel on the bed and collapsed with a sigh. "Cursed or not," he muttered, "this beats living in my car." That night, after some microwave noodles and an episode of a forgotten sitcom on his laptop, Liam got ready to sleep. 11:51 p.m. He yawned and reached over to turn out the light. Just before his fingers touched the switch, a sound came from the hallway. Knock, knock, knock. He froze. Not loud, but unmistakable. It came again. Knock, knock. Then silence. He stood there for a long moment, hands still on the light switch. "It's probably the building settling," he whispered to himself. "That's the thing, right?" He turned off the lamp, laid down, rolled over. Tried not to think about the carved message on his door. 12:04 a.m. Knock. Liam sat straight up. That one wasn't from the hallway. That one came from inside the room. Liam's breath caught in his throat. He didn't move. Didn't blink. The knock had come from the closet. The one with no handle. The one he hadn't touched since he arrived. He slowly reached for his phone. No signal. No Wi-Fi. No time showing on the lock screen. Just 2 words. "Let me." He dropped it. The knock came again, softer this time. Polite. Then a voice. From inside the closet. "You forgot to say goodnight." It wasn't threatening. It wasn't angry. It was worse. It was familiar. His own voice. Liam backed away, heartbeat in his ears. He didn't dare look away from the closet. That's when the whisper came, from the door behind him. "Don't listen to him." He turned. Now the apartment door had something new. A plaque. Brass. Polished. Not screwed in, grown into the wood. It read, "Do not open the closet after midnight." Too late. The door to the closet creaked open. Cold air spilled out. And something stepped into the room. Something that looked like Liam, but smiled like it knew the end of the story.